Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Les Cowbell. Welcome to the Vol Bros presented by the Ultawa Club. I forgot to mention that. We are very thankful for the Ultawa Club. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And speaking of the Ultawa Club, just a really awesome place. 365 pool year round, great dining. They're having a Veterans Day thing tomorrow where veterans get 50% off their meal. So just a great place. We strongly recommend the Ultawa Club, and we're looking forward to partnering with them for hopefully a long time. Um, isn't it great to be fans of a team that controls its own destiny? And that is exactly what Tennessee has in hand right now. But might be an interesting show this evening. So that's all I'm going to preface it with. Rustin, what did you take away from yesterday's game?
Our defense held Mississippi State to their lowest point and yardage total of the year. Regardless of anything else, that in and of itself was really impressive. They got a lot of contributions from a lot of guys. I thought Jermon McCoy played extremely well. Ricky Gibson had a phenomenal game. Jalen McMurray had a phenomenal game. Boo and Christian Harrison both. Man, when you look at the beginning of the year, one of the big question marks was who's going to play the nickel? How's it going to go? Boo and Christian Harrison have been just awesome. Both of them. They're playing extremely well. I don't think that coaching staff could be getting more out of that position right now. And the linebackers have just been solid. It was good to see Caleb Perry getting more run. He's healthy again. Jalen Smith didn't have his best game ever, but he was okay. Arian Carter and Jeremiah Thielander were exceptional. It was interesting that we had a game where really the back seven outplayed the front four. The front four played well, but the back seven played their tails off, and it was a cool thing to see.
My biggest takeaways from the game were Dylan Sampson is the man. Boo Carter had his best game as a Vol. Hey, if you have been watching the Vol Bros for any length of time, you knew literally months ago, that there was a chance we'd see Boo Carter returning punts this year. Because Rustin and I have been talking about it for a long time. We've said he's dynamic when he's got the ball in his hands. Well, everybody got to see that last night. That was a lot of fun getting to see Boo return some punts. And fearless at it too. Maybe almost to a fault at times. But man, he is electric with the ball in his hands. So that was exciting. Just as a Chattanooga native, I was happy for him. Here's my biggest takeaway from the game, though. And it wasn't from our game, but it directly impacts Tennessee Vols. And there's going to be a lot of people who probably don't like what I'm about to say. Yesterday, yes, Tennessee won, and that's always a good thing for Tennessee. But the rest of the day did not play out well at all for Tennessee. It just didn't. We've been saying on here that it helps Tennessee for Georgia to win, except for when we play them, obviously, but it helps Tennessee for Georgia to win. What we just witnessed, especially with the AP poll, I know the rankings aren't based off the AP poll. I understand that. But what we just witnessed was this Saturday is 100% an elimination game. Because last week, based on the AP poll, Georgia would have been second in the college football playoff. They'd have been the 2 seed. As of today, they would be out of the playoff. In 1 week, they went from the 2 seed to out of the playoff. And I'll break that down later. I'll show everybody on the screen how that happens. But here's the thing. We all know if Tennessee does not win this Saturday, they're out. I hate to say that, but that's just reality of the situation. Because if Georgia can drop from second place in the playoff to out of it, then we certainly could drop from number 8 to out of it. And you might be saying, well, they were number 6 in the AP poll today. Yeah, I know. But when you add in the automatic qualifiers to get first round buys, that drops Tennessee to the 8th seed. I'll show that. I'll break all that down later. But I mean, when you think about what Tennessee is walking into this week, an angry Kirby Smart playing at home at night with College game day and biggest game of the week in a playoff elimination scenario. And Nico may not even be 100%. So, and I know what Josh Heupel said after the thing. I know that. I don't believe it, but I know what he said. And you might say, well, why don't you believe it? Well, he had to say what he said. And for anybody who doesn't know, after the game, Heupel, the very first question that was asked in the press conference was, is Nico okay? And he said, oh, yeah, it's precautionary thing. He's fine. He'll be ready to go next week. Here's the deal. I don't buy that. And this is why I don't buy that. Number one, they lie about stuff all the time. Prime example, last night, Dante Thornton Jr. gets hit in the legs, is limping off the field, and they reported it as an upper body injury. I'm like, he's limping. That's a lower body thing. His hip is hurt, and he's limping right now. But that was an upper body. They just don't tell the truth about stuff. I mean, Squirrel White for weeks wasn't even able to raise his arm, and they're like, yeah, he's good, he's going to play. They don't tell the truth. So I don't buy it for that reason. But the second reason is Heupel had to say what he did. He had no choice. If he had been like, well, Nico might be out for next week, we don't know, then immediately the college football playoff ranking would have gone shoo for Tennessee. And I say that based off of what happened to Florida State last year. He could not give any hint or whiff of indication that we might be without Nico Iamaleava next week. He could not even give a hint at that. So that's why I don't buy it. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's okay. But, after the game's over, he comes walking out into the training area, and they got a camera on him for a minute there, and it was posted on Twitter, and he's got a towel over his head. I mean, clearly he had a concussion. Like, clearly that's what was going on. So with all that said, does Tennessee control its own destiny? Yes. If they win out and they make it to the SEC championship game, they're in the playoff. That's how it goes. Do they have an extremely tall task this week? Oh my goodness, yes. Absolutely. So that was my takeaways from the day. Bridled optimism. You want to go to the comments real quick and see what everybody's saying?
I would just add one thing. I don't agree with your summary of the playoffs. I think it's still too early. I don't think anyone can possibly say what's going to happen there for a lot of reasons. Number one, if you notice, they've got SMU winning the ACC. Okay, well,
I'm not on the AP poll.
I'm talking about bracketology. The college football playoff.
The AP poll.
Right, the college football playoff has SMU winning the ACC. Okay, so, and there's not another ACC school on the list.
Yeah, the ACC and probably the Big 12 will only get one team in each.
Correct. So if those two each get one team, and then Boise State is the third, that means there's 9 open spots. The SEC champion will get one. That's probably going to end up being Texas. Oregon's going to win the Big Ten, so that's the other one. So there's 8 empty spots. Right now, Penn State is going to get one of those because they have, unless they make it to the Big Ten championship, in which case if they do and lose, they'll be out. If they continue to coast, they'll probably be the 11th seed. Indiana plays Ohio State. So whoever loses that game is going to be out. They're not going to move them in the playoff. That's going to open up a spot. They're not going to give, especially if They might give Ohio State the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to give Indiana the benefit of the doubt.
But here's the thing:
Traditional,
that would be Indiana's only loss.
yes,
And
but
it
they're
would be
Indiana.
against the number, but it would be against the number 2 ranked team in the country.
I don't care. They'll bump them down. They're right now sitting at number 10. They'll bump them down to 13 or 14 and leave them out because it's Indiana. They don't sell tickets. They don't want them. So they'll find a way. Whoever loses that game won't make it. They will be out. Notre Dame is currently sitting at 9. They've still got to play Army, and I've been saying it for weeks. Army's going to win that game. But if for some reason they did beat Army, look at their last game of the season. They'll be going into the Coliseum to play a 6-5 USC team against Lincoln Riley, who is going to have his job on the line. Like, that's going to be a win or get fired game for him. And I don't see Notre Dame hanging with them. They've got more athletes, and if they're athletes at home who are inspired to save their coach's job, I think Notre Dame has 2 major trap games left on their schedule, and I don't think they survive both of them. I think they'll lose at least one, maybe both. So Notre Dame's not going to be in this equation. There's going to be open spots. And I think we need to keep this Saturday close. I don't think we have to win. I think it just needs to be close and, stay somewhere around the top 10, because as soon as these other teams start losing too, spots are going to open up. And if we just win out their last 2 games against UTEP and Vanderbilt, I think we're in.
The only way that we would sneak in then is if Notre Dame loses another game. Because if Notre Dame loses, that would be 2 losses for them, one of which was Northern Illinois. That would put them out of the playoff. But if they win out, they're in. I mean, sadly, that's the case.
The team that loses the Big 12 or the Big 10 championship could be out. This is where those championship games hurt people. If Georgia beats us and then loses in the SEC championship to Texas, they'll be out. Like, recency bias is so big with this committee, and traditional powership is so big with them. Indiana's got to run the table if they want to get in. This committee is not going to put Indiana in there with a loss.
Time will tell.
They're not.
Time will tell.
They're just not. They're not. They don't respect them, and they know they won't sell tickets. They're not. If they have a loss, they're done. Their strength of schedule is awful, and they're Indiana.
I agree their strength of schedule is not good, but sadly, Tennessee's strength of schedule is getting worse and worse by every week. Oklahoma keeps losing. NC State is terrible. Arkansas keeps losing, which is hurting us. We have one good win over Alabama. We have to beat Georgia. I mean, we just have to. It's a good situation to be in because we do control our own destiny. If we lose, all of a sudden we no longer control our own destiny, and that is not a good spot to be in. And hopefully we don't have another 2016 where all we have to do is beat Vanderbilt to go to the SEC championship game and we mess it up. Hopefully we don't have that scenario that happens or plays out. That would not be fun. But I'm very curious to see how the playoff committee ranks everybody, because I'm going to be honest with you, everybody knows Alabama is the darling of the playoff committee. And if anybody watched SEC Network last night after all the games were over, they were doing a little segment where they said, how would you rank the SEC right now? And 2 of the 3 people had Alabama ahead of Tennessee in their rankings, even though Tennessee beat them head to head. And I'm like, man, where have we seen this before? The only person who didn't have Tennessee behind Alabama was Chris Doering. He was the only one. Let's see. Minolaki said, evening, Vol Bros in chat. Welcome, Minolaki. Glad you're with us. Rhonda, great to have you. Glad you're with us. Let's see here. Eric, hey, buddy, good to have you. Glad you're with us. Rhonda said, happy Sunday, Vol Bros. Go Vols all the time. Absolutely. Mississippi Vol, welcome. Glad you're here. Second evening, guys, may not be the prettiest, but we're still winning. Absolutely. Need another one this Saturday. Keg said, what's up, bros? Go Big Orange. Absolutely. Go Big Orange. Sanders, good to have you. Glad you're here. Let's see. Billy, welcome. Billy, good to have you. He said, hello, everyone. Most of you all said, good evening, guys. May not be the prettiest, but oh, yep. Hope they keep it up this week. Absolutely. Rhonda said, Dylan Samsonico going down just about sent me in a cardiac arrest. Love the win. Absolutely. Uncle Dave, welcome. Good to have you. He said, glad Dylan's ankle turned out okay, especially how it looked when his leg crawled under that lineman. Great comeback for Max Gilbert. That's a fantastic point. Yes. 3 for 3 on the night. Drilled that like 51-yarder. That is a fantastic point. Very, very, very good point. Absolutely. Eric said, Boo is quick, but he scared me fielding them. Some of them, absolutely. The one near the sideline when he went up, had to jump for it. Yeah, that was dangerous. Elijah said the worst spot for Tennessee possible on the game this Saturday. Yeah, you don't want an angry Kirby Smart playing for the playoff. Not a good situation. Like said, we're going to win this Saturday. Man, I hope so. Greg said, if you want to be the man, you have to beat the man, said Rustin a few weeks ago. I agree. Greg, appreciate you. Welcome, buddy. Facebook user said, Heupel will not be truthful about injuries. That is a take it to the bank statement. Heupel will not be truthful about injuries. James said, welcome, James. He said, no one will know if Nico's playing until the first possession on Saturday. Totally agree. Because all they have to do on Wednesday when the injury reports do is just put him as questionable. And then he gets to play or not. A la Lane Kiffin's injury report last Wednesday. They had like 30 bajillion people on it. Elijah said he didn't look good going on the field after the game, had a towel over the head, walking really slow, had his head down the whole time. Yeah, so I think Rustin hit it on the head. No pun intended, actually. I shouldn't have said that.
I actually saw that as a positive, but go ahead.
We were talking, me and Rustin and our dad were talking during the game, why would they not allow him to come out of the locker room? And Rustin made a good point. He said it's probably because of the lights and the volume. They don't want it to mess with his head because he's probably got a concussion. But they did call it an upper body injury, which means it could be his foot. So who knows? Who knows what's really wrong?
I think when he came out with the towel over his head, that was the greatest indicator of all to me that it's a concussion, because again, the lights were still on. They've had him in a dark room, and they didn't want him to walk out and his brain to go crazy when all of a sudden lights are all over the place. So they cover his head with a towel so his face stays dark. I thought that was actually the best thing they could have possibly have shown. He didn't have any kind of braces or splints or crutches or anything like that. He just had a towel over his head.
Well, I think the most significant part of that was it showed that he was still in the stadium, because some people were online saying, oh, they took him to the hospital and all this kind of stuff. No, he was there. He was in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that video got leaked.
And technology and treatment has gotten to the place where, he's probably not going to practice Monday or Tuesday, but they'll have him in treatment, getting him to a place where he can pass concussion protocol. And I would bet he'll be listed as questionable on Wednesday, but he'll practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and be ready to go on Saturday.
Greg said if we lose at Georgia and then A&M loses to Texas, that leaves Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Bama fighting for 2 SEC spots after Georgia and Texas. It's not a definite elimination. So if A&M loses at Texas, so here I'm going to take that another route. Last week we mentioned that there was a possible scenario where there could be 8 teams who end up with 2 losses, all tied for first in the SEC. Step 1 and Step 2 both happened yesterday. Step 1 was Ole Miss beating Georgia. Step 2 was Alabama beating LSU. So if that happens, Step 3, unfortunately, would be Georgia beating Tennessee this weekend. Step 4 is everybody else wins out until Step 5, which is A&M beats Texas. If that were to happen, you would have 8 teams tied at first place with 2 losses in the SEC. Have fun sorting that mess out, SEC office. Have fun with that. And it's possible. Like both of the 2 first steps happened yesterday. So it is still possible for that to end up happening.
One other thing that's still possible, and any Alabama fans are about to lose their mind when I say this, don't forget Thanksgiving weekend, they're at Auburn. And weird stuff happens in that game. You can throw records out the window. And this is Kalen DeBoer's first time ever in an A-Day game, or Iron Bowl. So
you mean like a kick six, like weird stuff?
Hugh Freeze, I mean, it's his MO. There's always one game a year that he wins. Everybody's like, how the crap did he do that? Hasn't happened yet this year. So just saying, don't count all of Alabama's eggs yet, because there's one weird game left on the schedule.
Mississippi Vol said he agrees. He looks for Gaston to be the starter this week.
I'll be very surprised if that happens.
Rhonda said our defense is our biggest weapon next week. Amen. She said praying Beck has a 3+ interception game.
I think the one thing that they should be really excited about, against Ole Miss, Georgia carried the ball 33 times for 59 yards. They averaged 1.8 yards per carry. That Ole Miss defense is not that great. They're an average defense. So if they can hold Georgia to that kind of a rushing game, we should be able to do some work there.
Tennessee's defense will give Tennessee a chance in every game they play. Once again, the opposing team did not reach 20 points. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible what they're doing. It's absolutely incredible how they're playing and performing on defense. So their defense will give them a chance whenever they step on the field. Kevin, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said Gaston Moore didn't look bad, but Georgia's going to be up. They sure are. They know what's on the line. If Georgia loses this weekend, they're out of the playoff. I mean, I don't see any way possible they could put them back in the playoff.
No, they're done. They're in the first 4 out right now. They get another loss, they're out. They're finished. Which again could happen in the SEC championship.
Yeah. Because right now, if Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas A&M, no, they would lose to Texas in this scenario, so they wouldn't be. So if Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Alabama all finish with 2 losses, I think I'd have to go back and look, but I think Georgia actually would get the nod, because they would have beaten a team in conference with the best winning percentage in conference, which was Texas in that scenario. Which would mean they would get the nod.
The 4 teams in the mix right now are Tennessee, Texas A&M, Texas, and Georgia, and all 4 of those teams still play each other. So whoever wins between Texas A&M, and Tennessee, Georgia, that's the SEC championship.
Yeah, assuming they win the other games.
Yeah.
Oreo Puppy Dog, welcome, buddy. He said, sure would like to have the Arkansas game back. Oh, my goodness, yes. If they had won that game, we're in the playoff right now. Like, we're in. Even if we don't beat Georgia this weekend, we're in the playoff, assuming we end up beating Vanderbilt. So, yes, that game, absolutely. Absolutely. Rhonda agreed. Absolutely. Said offense inconsistent, defense run game getting worse, Georgia losing. Not a good recipe for winning. Georgia wins by double digits. I don't think it'll be double digit win by any means. But if Georgia does win, which is very likely, I think it'll be, 7 points at the most, honestly, because our defense is going to keep us in the game no matter what. Let's see. This Boo Carter played a fantastic game, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda said also Indiana's schedule compared to, hey, I totally agree. Totally agree. Their schedule is nothing like an SEC schedule. Unfortunately, the playoff committee doesn't care about that. All they care about is the win column. That's why Nick Saban would intentionally schedule the weakest possible out of conference games he could, because all that matters is the win column.
Now, the chair of the committee is Michigan's athletic director. If Indiana beats Ohio State, you know he's going to enjoy leaving Ohio State out of that playoff. Like that will happen quickly.
You know, it's interesting. We've been saying on this show for months that the SEC championship game just needs to go away, because in some ways it's even better to not play in it and just get in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban literally said that exact thing on game day. He was like, it might be a situation where it's better to not play in the SEC championship game and just get to take a bye week and then go host a playoff game. I mean, like, other people see it too.
Yeah.
Kevin said, I'd hate to see us leave it up to the selection committee. Amen. 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 There are a lot of folks who don't like Tennessee. Absolutely. A la 2022, when we beat Alabama and they still ranked them ahead of us in the final ranking. We can't leave it up to the committee. Totally agree. Ryan, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. Ryan played golf at the Ooltewah Club today. He hope he enjoyed his time out there. He sent me a text of his tee shot on the 9th hole. It was about maybe 4 inches away, ended 4 inches away from the cup. It was pretty nice. Pretty nice shot.
I take lots of those pictures. I don't actually hit them. I just put the ball down. And
look what I did. Yeah, that's a good one.
Putting for birdie 8 times a day.
Yeah. Ryan said, not sure why Indiana jumped us in the AP poll. They won by 5 over a bad Michigan team. Hopefully the committee doesn't see it the same way. I totally understand. I mean, I totally understand what he's saying. Unfortunately, the committee has proven over and over all they care about is the win column. That's all they care about. And it's not right, but that's all they care about, sadly. Like he said, you were right about something at 9:14. So that was 16. Sorry about that. Somebody on Facebook said, if Indiana loses a close game to Ohio State, they're in. Notre Dame will be in. They ain't losing another.
It's Tony Mosher. Further down in the comments, it finally fixes.
Oh, okay, cool. Rhonda said, and if it is with a backup quarterback, that would be a consideration if we lose, but we're not going to, though. I'm fighting the battered ball syndrome. That's what I'm talking about, Rhonda. Good job. Now, Ryan and I were talking about this earlier, actually. The only way that we come out of this looking okay if we lose is if it's Gaston Moore at quarterback. And they say, Nico will be back next week, that kind of thing. That way the playoff committee keeps that in mind. It's very sad that we have to say things like that, but this is extremely subjective. We have humans who have personal interests in mind ranking these teams on Tuesday. It's just not good. John is exactly right, and I think this is, why Rustin was probably correct in his assessment earlier. The playoffs are a money game. They sure are. They sure are. And that honestly does help Tennessee because Tennessee travels. People know that. Yeah. So I said our strength of schedule is weak. We've only beaten one good team so far. That's true. Absolutely. Let's see. Billy said he agrees. Money talks. Money talks. Kevin said, I have the same feeling. If we don't win, especially if Nico doesn't play, I don't think we get in. Keg said, I thought Dylan Sampson's fumble was another helmet on the ball. It was. It was or shoulder. Never really saw a good replay of it. Dude's shoulder hit right on the ball. It's hard to hang on to that, but that is 3 games in a row that he's fumbled inside the 20-yard opponent's 20-yard line. Robert said, hey, bros, I dread the Vandy game more than the Dogs. I dread the Georgia game more than I do the Vanderbilt game, but neither one's going to be easy. Both are going to be a dogfight, no pun intended. Both games are going to be very difficult. Yeah. Robert said,
Vanderbilt got exposed a little bit yesterday, and I'm starting to wonder if they might be a little banged up. I mean, South Carolina beat them handedly yesterday. They're doing some odd things on offense, and it makes me wonder if they're trying to hide some injuries.
Robert said, if Nico was out for the rest of the season, then, you got to think about what happened to LSU. Thankfully, I don't think he'll be out for the rest of the season. Typically, concussion protocol lasts for 2 weeks. So, on average, at least in the past.
Depends on the person. It also depends on how well you answer the questions. They may or may not already have an awareness of what questions are going to be asked and how to answer them in order to get cleared. That's a pretty common practice among college athletes.
Kevin said, I think the money issue gets diluted with so many in the playoffs. If it was Tennessee or Indiana in a bowl, I think money has more of an impact of that bowl selection committee.
100%.
VFL in Texas said, go Big Orange. Absolutely. Ash McVall said, I'm not sure that Georgia drops out of the top 12. And plus, we were ranked number 7 and we're the 8th seed. We should move up to number 5 overall. So even if we lose to Georgia, I think we squeak in. I don't think Georgia will drop out of the top 12 either. We'll see. It's going to be close. They're going to be right on the border. Mr. Jones said Mississippi State was playing past the whistle. Maybe that's why they held. No, that's not why they held him out. VFL in Texas said, what is the time frame on average for concussion protocol? I don't know. Let me see what the old Google machine says.
It's not. It's every individual's different. There's no time frames. It's all about recovery and answering questions. At the beginning of the season, every player goes through a baseline concussion test, so they understand how you normally are. So, in other words, if you're completely illiterate and you get a concussion, they need to know what they were dealing with before your head got hurt. So, they have a baseline concussion test that everybody has, so they know where you're starting from, and then they test afterwards. But the test is questions, and it's not hard to beat the questions.
Mr. Jones said our defense can get to Carson Beck. Absolutely, totally agree. Kevin said that the offensive line for Georgia looked weak on Saturday. They did. Tate Ratledge is not himself right now. Rhonda said they have a test guidelines for concussions. Let's see. Vols Titans said, I have the feeling if we lose that, Bama will be the team ahead of us to get in. Very possibly so. Mr. Jones said Gaston's going to kill the beast. People were saying Auburn is playing at Alabama instead of at Auburn. Vols Titans said, I feel the team that can score over 20 wins. 100% agree this weekend. 100% agree. VFL in Texas said Georgia's offense struggles to score without a short field. Real Puppy Dog said, if needed, I think Gaston can pull it off if defense is having their normal game. I hope so. Rhonda said, kills me that Kiffin got the win. Figures he would try to mess all the stuff up. Tony, we're glad you're with us, man. We're glad you're with us. That was Tony that was on the Facebook comment there, like Rustin said. Elijah said, if we beat Arkansas, we'd be number 1 or number 2 because we'd be undefeated. That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. Trex, or T-Rex, one of the two, said, are these guys really brothers? We actually are. We are 2 Vol bros who are actually bros in real life. We are actually brothers. Kevin said that wasn't all Saban said on College Game Day. Nick Saban roasted Paul Skeens on game day. That was quite funny, actually. Jeff, welcome, buddy. He said the clearest SEC playoff scenario would be Tennessee and Texas winning out. That would put Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss, and Bama in. Yeah, agreed. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, I think the AP is trying to manipulate the playoff ratings. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Wes said, welcome, Wes. He said, how confident are y'all in Tennessee getting the win over Georgia? Not confident.
I picked Georgia before the season started. So,
I mean, Georgia's certainly not playing as well as they have been in the past. That's obvious. But I mean, I'm just thinking an angry Kirby Smart playing for survival in the playoff at home at night. And we may not even have a quarterback who's 100% healthy. Yikes. That is not a good scenario. Mr. Jones said he's 10 out of 10 confident. Ash McVall said 7 out of 10. Richard said Tennessee will find a way to win out. Hey, I'd love that. Let's do it. Let's see. Kevin said if Gaston Moore loses at Georgia, but Nico comes back to blow out UTEP, I think we might have a chance, but I don't trust it. Is the narrative I could see if they want Vol fans. Yeah, we would also have to win very convincingly over Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. Because if we do that, that's something that neither Alabama nor Texas did this year, was win convincingly at Vanderbilt. I think it was Rhonda on here. She made a great point, talking about style points. I think it was Rhonda that said that a couple of days ago. She's exactly right. I mean, just look at how style points are already. I mean, my goodness, that's why Texas is ranked ahead of Tennessee. How in the world why should Texas be ranked ahead of Tennessee? Who have they beaten that is a better strength of schedule than what Tennessee's played? I mean, there's no reason for Texas to be ahead of Tennessee other than style points. That's why they're up there. So style points do matter. Audrey said, welcome, Audrey. Good to have you. She said Vandy's banged up on offense. Alpha Man 06 said it's sad that, politics and stuff play into these rankings. And he's right. It does. The Vols travel well. That helps us. But we all know Alabama is the darling of the playoff committee for whatever reason. Kevin said Vandy just doesn't have the depth. I think we'll beat them without that much of a challenge. Man, I hope so. Mr. Jones said our defense is Pavia proof. Will said there is zero chance that a 2-loss Ohio State gets left out of the playoffs.
Depends on who it is and when it is. I wouldn't say that.
Tony said Nico missed Brew for a wide open touchdown. Brew can't get a break. Yeah. Ash McValls is curious what are some of the questions they ask on a Facebook concussion test, or not Facebook, concussion test. Maybe I have a concussion.
Yeah. So the baseline test and the test to pass are basically identical. They don't give them the exact same questions, but they try to come up with similar questions so they can see how they compare to the baseline. It starts easy and then gets progressively harder as you go. So it starts off with things like, what's your name? What's today's date? What day of the week is it? And then they'll throw in stuff like, are you experiencing nausea? Do you get headaches? If you get headaches on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is it? How often is it? How long does it last? And then they'll progress into questions like, I'm going to give you 6 words, listen to all 6 and then repeat them back to me. name the 12 months in reverse order, things like that. And that's why they do a baseline, because if you got a kid, let's say you got a defensive lineman.
November, October,
Yeah,
September.
exactly. Let's say you got a defensive lineman who, when they're totally healthy, can't do the 12 months in reverse order. You have to know that before you test them for a concussion, because they may not be able to do that when they're 100%. So that's why they do the baseline test every year for every player, so they know what they're working with.
Audrey said the last two plays of the first half, Nico got hit and landed on his shoulder on both of them. He looked like he was wincing on that second throw. That could be the injury. Who knows? They said upper body, so it could literally be anything. It could be a broken toe for all we know. Because, like I said, they had Dante Thornton Jr. listed as an upper body injury, and he was limping because his leg was hurt. But somehow that's upper body. So Tennessee's reporting of injuries is somewhat interesting. Mina Lackey with a Josh Mancuso reference here. Did Georgia overlook Ole Miss? That was on Josh's one of the most recent videos. That was a good one. Elijah said, all I'm saying is if we do somehow pull off the upset, this team is truly a national championship. Oh,
sure.
I think this team is a national championship contender, whether they win this weekend or not. It's if they're given the opportunity to go play for it.
If we win this weekend, all of a sudden Dylan Sampson's in the 5 finalists for the Heisman. I mean, that's what really is at stake this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's defense, listen, if I could, I'm going to show my rankings later. And it's this age-old question, is it, do you rank them based on how deserving they are or who is actually the best team? And if we're ranking who is the best team right now, I think we could all probably agree Oregon would still be number one. But honestly, it's hard not to put Tennessee at number 2 because their defense gives them an opportunity to win every single time they step on the field. And if their offense is doing halfway decent, they're going to win the game. I mean, apparently all we have to do is score more than 20 points. If we do that, we win. It's really that simple. And so.
And kudos to the Van Buren kid. He became only the second quarterback all year. He and Jalen Milroe, the only 2 quarterbacks to survive the whole game.
That made it through the game. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Billy said, well, if our defense plays the way they have been playing, we should win this weekend. Mississippi Vol said he's only about 2 out of 10 confidence level for this weekend. Mr. Jones said we can win versus Georgia. We have Dylan Sampson and our defense, they're so good. Yep, I agree. He said if Gaston starts, he doesn't have to win the game. He just has to not lose it. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree.
I thought he did a really good job, honestly, yesterday. I thought he took shots when he had them. He made good reads. Didn't really see him. Maybe one play. He took a deep shot and Miles Kitzelman was running wide open. And he didn't take his reads. He just saw an opportunity and went after it. And he could have gotten 30 yards, maybe more easily if he had just thrown it to Miles Kitzelman.
Yeah.
But he never.
No one was near him.
He caught the snap and immediately stepped back to fire it deep.
Yeah. Nobody was near Miles at all. He was open by miles. See what I did there? Nice. Beeville in Texas said Georgia's loss is for Texas is better than the Arkansas loss. I agree with that. But the wins that Texas does not have a win as good as Alabama at this current time. Dialer, welcome. Good to have you. He said Tennessee has beat ranked teams. So Texas has beaten, like VFL in Texas said, a few ranked teams. JL said he thinks Nico's going to be okay. Audrey said if we get constant pressure on Beck, he gets flustered and will 100% make bad decisions. Totally agree. 100% agree. Green Wave says Vols over Georgia all day. Hope so. He said, man, some of those questions would be hard for me to pass right now.
That's why they do the baseline test.
That's why I was thinking about the months backwards. I was like, could I do that? Kevin said, I'd probably fail the concussion test now. What day is it? Where are you? That's what I'm talking about. Oh, Dollar said he meant to say currently ranked teams. Yep, I understand that. 12 months, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Audrey said she'd fail it right now, too. Ash McValsey can't do the months thing stone cold sober. JL said we're about to put Georgia out of the playoffs. I hope so. Greg said my Batterval syndrome's flaring up. It really is. It really is. I feel like I've seen this too many times with Georgia when their back's against the wall. So hopefully our team plays like their back's against the wall as well. Mississippi Vol said, to their credit, Mississippi State played us very physical. They may lose by 30, but they will bang you up in the process. They have for years. It's hard to argue that. That's what happened yesterday. You're right. Mr. Jones said Dylan Sampson's strength is in his hair. Don't cut it. Nice biblical reference there. Let's see. Rebecca said, hey, welcome. Good to have you, Rebecca. She said, all we need is 21 points and we win. You're right. That's it. Apparently that's all we need. Or 20, actually, because no team's made it to 20 yet. Let's see. Ash McVall said that Van Buren kid has impressed me all year. He'll be a fun one to watch. Totally agree.
They got to get some players around him. He's out there running around by himself a lot of the time.
Yeah. Rhonda said James Pierce Jr. was a beast. He's going to be hungry this weekend. Oh, yeah. And Oreo Puppy Dog said Carson Beck does go through his progressions very well, but when pressured, he's not accurate. Brooks will eat him up. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's been very clear based on their games this year that if he gets pressure in his face, he will make poor decisions. So, Tennessee's going to be trying to live in that backfield. Kevin said Peyton Lewis looked good again yesterday. Yes, he did. Man, that one hit he put on that dude. Good night. Elijah said the only thing I can see good for us in the game is the last time Georgia lost, they came out super dead against Auburn. We need to get out to a quick start and not play from behind. Absolutely. Ryan said, I thought we should have thrown the ball more against Mississippi State. We were getting big plays, too many runs up the middle and got Sampson banged up. The downfield passing game was open as it is every game. That's one thing that, honestly, when we talk about Tennessee's offense, and I'm glad Ryan said this, because if you talk about Tennessee's offense and you look back over the course of the season, obviously Dylan Sampson has been a constant, obviously. However, another constant is Tennessee's receivers are open downfield every single game. Every single game. Now, Rustin, you'll remember this. I think it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I said, if Tennessee just hits just two downfield passes a game, they won't lose. Because that's 14 points right there. If Dylan Sampson gets his, that's 21. We win because the other team's not going to score more than 20, apparently. So if Tennessee hits 2 downfield passes a game, they win. Yesterday, they hit 2 downfield passes for touchdowns. So, if they hit receivers downfield, nobody can hang with them. They're the best team in the country if they do that. Mr. Jones said we need an offensive package for Boo Carter, getting the ball in space. Yeah, so I think you're going to see that actually for the next 3 years. You're going to hear people talking about that, just like they did when Evan Berry was here. You're going to hear people saying that for a while, but I don't know if it'll happen or not. I don't know. JL makes a very good point. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. You're right, man. You're exactly right. VFL said, I'm telling y'all this weekend feels like 2016. Go Vols. I hope so. That'd be pretty nice. Hail Mary win the game. That'd be pretty cool. Gary, welcome, buddy. He said, is James Pierce Jr. okay to play? Yes, he is. He is. He's totally fine. Yep. Good question. Green Wave said we need Boo to save his gas for defense, though. Yep. Ryan said, good to see Squirrel finally getting a touchdown. Yep, totally agree, man. Totally agree. He said, need to get Brew one. Totally agree. Absolutely. Oreo Puppy Dog said we're going to win 24-17 this weekend. Sign me up. I'm all about that. Sign me up. Fort Rep 1 said, good to see Cam Seldon. Yeah, that was interesting.
I think it confirmed what we talked about Thursday night. Deshaun Bishop was out. Peyton Luce goes out there. He ran okay, but he wasn't explosive at first. And, we said Thursday night, we're going to find out what's going on with Cam Seldon. Either he's redshirting and transferring, or they've got a deal with him that they will try to redshirt and transfer. But if they get in a bind, he's going to have to jump in. And I think that's what we saw. We saw Dylan Sampson go down. Peyton Lewis was not immediately effective. He got better as the game went on, but when he first came in, he wasn't great. And they were like, Cam, sorry, you got to go. I would not put any stock in the fact that he played. They've burned his red shirt now, but I don't see him hanging around. He's now fourth on. When everybody's healthy, he's fourth on the depth chart, and he's not staying.
Yep, totally agree. Rob, welcome, buddy. Rob has made a fantastic suggestion. He said that everybody should hit the like button. I totally agree. Hey, if you hit subscribe, that would be awesome as well. If you told other people about our show, we would love that too. If you shared our show with somebody, that would be fantastic.
The other way that Cam Seldon wasn't coming back is Deshaun Bishop got injured. Instead of returning kickoffs, they didn't put Cam Seldon back there. They put William Wright back there, and he had a good return. Yeah. He popped one, but the fact that William Wright was back there returning kicks before Cam Seldon should tell you everything you need to know.
Yep, agreed. Totally agree. Elijah said, it truly is any given Saturday. We can go out there and play lights out, or we can play as dead as possible. Only time can tell. You're right. Mr. Jones said Dylan Dreiling and Dylan Sampson, Vols of the year. That's fair, actually. Alpha Man 06 said, it's crazy nobody's talking bad about Will Martinez right now. Yeah, you're right. All that talk kind of ended, didn't it? You're exactly right. Mina Laggy said she hit the like on the way in. Hey, I appreciate that very much. Let's see. Fort Rep 1 agreed with you. Mina Laggy said we should have a contest on likes. Post what number you are, and that's all she's got so far. We'll keep working on it, though. We'll keep brainstorming it.
There was a play, speaking of Willie Martinez, there was a play, and it cracked me up, and I wish they had a better camera angle of it. There was a play I think it was in the second quarter. Ricky Gibson had really nice coverage and broke up a pass, and Willie Martinez was going nuts on the sideline. That man's like 147 years old, and he was jumping around and going crazy. And it was funny to watch.
And I think Willie Martinez will never come on our show now based on that. He knows. He was 147 years old.
He knows. He's talked about retirement. He knows he's up there.
Let's see. Sanders said, have y'all been watching Lady Vols? Yeah, we'll get to talk about them on Thursday after their next game. Light said, how'd you like the basketball team on Saturday? They looked really good. They did look very good. Led the whole game. Never trailed in the game. They played very well. I just really hope they get Darlington Dubar back soon.
I was really, really happy. Again, you never want to be good in November. You want to be good in January. And this team's going to keep getting better and better. They're going to keep gelling. I was really happy to see Cade Phillips getting some really quality minutes. He can be a difference maker. He's a tough cover. But if I had told you, hey, the Vols are going to go to Louisville and they're going to commit 24 turnovers, you wouldn't expect us to win by 22 on the road. When you can turn the ball over 24 times and still play such suffocating defense that it doesn't matter and you win in a blowout, that's impressive.
Yep. Royal Puppy Dog said Jackson Ross keeps looking like he's reading the field, ready to pass. I agree.
Yep.
Totally agree. Mr. Jones said Meshack developed a jump shot. Well, he worked on it a lot, that's for sure.
He looked good.
Like I said, Lady Vols are tearing it up. Sanders said men's team's looking good too. We still have a lot to clean up. I agree. Greg said, how about that Auburn plane fight? I'm going to just keep going.
I've never in my
Uh,
life heard of a pilot of a chartered plane calling the airport and saying, "Sorry, we're turning around and coming back because the players are fighting on the plane." That's a first. That was, they released the footage of his conversation with the tower. That's a first.
Yep. Elijah said Cade Phillips reminds him of Toby Awaka, but more disciplined. Well, let's get back to the football game. So, let's start with player. Who was your player of the game?
Yeah, led the team in tackles, had 1.5 tackles for loss, and had a fantastic pass breakup in coverage for a deflection. I thought Arion Carter had a fantastic day.
Hey, that's a good choice. That's a very good choice. I wanted to pick Boo Carter, but dadgummit, if Dylan Sampson doesn't keep carrying the team on his back, I mean, I'm thrilled for Dylan. He's played fantastic, but easily those two guys were my players of the game. I think Arion's a great choice. He's anchoring the defense right now.
Yeah. There's a reason that they had their lowest yardage total of the year and their lowest point total of the year, and a lot of it was the way Arion Carter played.
Yep. Mr. Jones said about the Auburn plane thing. Everybody was kung fu fighting.
I would love to be a fly on the wall listening to them try to sort that out. Like if the rumors are true, punches were flying.
And way more. Potentially scissors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Oreo Puppy Dog said Boo Carter was his player of the game. Elijah said his was Boo. The pick, along with some good returns. Opening tackle of the game. Great punt returns. Did have the interception. Boo played extremely. It was easily his best game of the season. Hard not to pick Boo. I agree. JL said, but Tennessee's the team that doesn't have class, according to a lot of people. Yep.
Like you just put, I want the window seat.
Let's see here. Let's see. Mr. Jones said Boo Carter's his play of the game. Elijah said I'm at the point where I say second because Dylan Sampson's always the player of the game. So who's going to be second player? Yeah, that's a fair point. VFL in Texas said Gaston Moore. So cool interaction this morning at church. One of my buddies who's a Georgia fan, his name's Alec. He was talking to me. He went to bed at halftime, and he asked me how Nico did in the second half. He's like, "Did he play all the third quarter? When did Gaston come in?" I said, "Nico didn't come out of the locker room," and he goes, "Y'all scored like 20 points with Gaston Moore in the game?" I said, "Yep, we sure did."
It's 13, but yeah,
13, yeah. But he was very impressed. That I've had two different Georgia fans tell me they are not looking forward to this Saturday. And I said, well, I'm not either. So we're all in that boat together. Gary said, do you think our offensive tackles look good enough now to get it done? They're certainly getting healthier now. That's for sure.
Jackson Lampley gave us some great snaps. Andre Carrick got a little banged up, and Lampley played a lot more than he normally does, and he did a great job. It looks like we're finally getting healthy and getting some depth on the line, and they're playing pretty well.
Yep. Kevin said Arion also had a major hit late in the game, forced fourth down. Yeah, he played very well. Greg said he looks like Dylan coughs it up with an extra spin move at trying to get that last yard. Let's see. Mina Leggy said Arion Carter and Dylan Sampson for her. Robert said, would like to see the Wildcat with Bishop, Sampson, Selden, or Boo behind center. That'd be interesting.
I think you could. I don't know if you'll see it this year, but I think next year you could see that with Deshaun Bishop. His high school ran that some. He's used to doing it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw that next year with him.
Mr. Jones said Max Gilbert for player of the game. I like that. Man, I
Mhm.
was just so happy for him when he got to see all three of those kicks go through. He was relieved too. JL said, our elite defense will shut Georgia down. They can't run the football. I hope that's exactly what happens. I hope. So, Rustin, what was your play of the game yesterday?
This is going to surprise you because it's not going to be something explosive. I think it was like 3rd and 8. Gaston got some pressure, recognized that a nickelback was trying to cover, I think it was Chris Brazzell, and had his head turned and had no idea where the ball was. And Gaston just plunked him in the back of the helmet with it and got the pass interference and got the immediate first down. That was a big time read. A lot of
third down
quarterbacks,
play too.
yeah, a lot of quarterbacks will try to force the issue or take off running in the midst of all that chaos. And what it told me was the game is slowing down for Gaston. So if for some reason Nico can't go, that was a really good thing to see for this upcoming week. The game is slowing down enough that he can recognize that guy's head's turned. He has no idea where the ball is. I'm just going to plunk him, get the pass interference. We'll get a new set of downs. That's a big time read by a quarterback that most quarterbacks cannot make.
That's a great choice. Very good choice. So my play of the game was the first touchdown. We go for it. We ended up, it was going to be 4th and 1, but there was a penalty because Lance Hurd was pulling Dylan Sampson across the first down marker. So they back us up. So it's like 4th and 6, maybe it was even 4th and 7, and they still went for it and threw a touchdown pass to Squirrel White in the process. I loved it. That is the Josh Heupel we all know and love. Who cares what the down distance is? We're going for the end zone. We want to score. That is the Josh Heupel we know and love. So that was my play of the game. Some of the other comments coming through. Sanders said that she would bet Carson Beck has at least 1 interception this weekend. I agree. I think he's going to have 1 interception. I think that's what's going to happen. Mina Laggy said she go with Max Gilbert and Gaston as her players of the game. Gary liked those big. He's like, it's a kicker, but, it was fun to see him making them. That's for sure. We need him to make them this weekend for sure.
Especially that 51-yarder. It was nice to see that that's in his range.
And it was well within his range, too.
He killed it.
Right down the middle. It was awesome. He was pumped up about it, too. Mr. Jones said his play of the game was Boo's interception. Yeah, it was a beautiful play. He stepped right in front of that. Tony said Max Gilbert had 4 field goals yesterday. Thank you. I appreciate you correcting me on that one. Alphamano 6 said Tony Vitello is the crazy of any sport. This is why players love him. Yeah, Tony was having himself a good time over there. He's always standing on the north end zone. Sometimes it's on the west side, sometimes it's on the east side. Yesterday it was at least part of the game was on the east side because he was acting like he was telling the ref throw the flag at one point, and Tony, he enjoys himself at those games. Kevin said Mississippi State opened up some running lanes on our interior linemen yesterday. Yeah, you're right. They sure did.
They did, but I don't know that it was them. It was the same play over and over. It was an inside trap. There were times when I felt like Tim Banks was getting a little too cute. He was trying to do too much and not just letting our front 4 be our front 4 and play the way they typically play. And so it just – I don't know if Mississippi State saw something on film or what, but they recognized that when we were in certain alignments, they could run the trap and pop it up the middle pretty easily. And we just kept playing into it. If you go back and watch that, it's the exact same play every time. And it's pretty much the same alignment from the front 6 on every single one of them. We ran some run blitzes also, which is not something Tim Banks typically does. There was one time Arian Carter got caught on a stunt. They ran the trap and ran it right past him. It's not his fault. He was on a run stunt and just happened to run right into the pulling guard. So I doubt we'll see any of that anymore. I think Tim Banks probably learned his lesson and went, yeah, we're not going to get away from being us. So I highly doubt. The good news is it happened against Mississippi State and not Georgia, because Georgia has the dudes to take it to the house. Mississippi State does not. And now that they know that that's an issue, and Mike Bobo likes to run the trap, so that's something Georgia would run fairly frequently. And now that we know that that's an issue, they'll shore that up this week, and it shouldn't be an issue moving forward.
Bill said Boo Carter's tackling was lit. Ash McVall said, what's going on with us giving up these big running? We were talking about that. So let's see. Mina Leggy said Gaston will be fine for Georgia. He scored first in the orange and white game. I like it. Nice.
The orange and white game all-star for the last 2 years was Dayton Sneed. Don't think we can put a whole lot of stock in that.
Absolutely. Hey, Dayton's about to have a breakout game this weekend. Tony said after Boo's interception, hated the play calls after that. Yeah, he hated that they couldn't get in the end zone. That's for sure. VFL and Text said personal record 51-yard field goal. That's his play of the game. Yeah, I mean that's cool. Folks talking about the running game here. Matt said, welcome, Matt. Good to have you. He said Boo's punt returns were great. Boo was great overall, 100%. Audrey said maybe they saw that Keenan Peely's out. Clint Eastwood. Wow, we got a celebrity. Clint, we're glad you're with us. Georgia fan. He said, put us out of our misery. Clint, Rustin and I are sitting here talking about how it's interesting that it seems like both fan bases are very concerned about this weekend.
No one feels good about it.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. Real quick, we've ended our show this way the past couple weeks. I wasn't going to do it tonight because the AP poll doesn't matter anymore. But an interesting thing happened today, and so that's why I wanted to show this. So here's today's AP poll. You will notice that Georgia went from number 2, or no, they were number 3 last week. They went from number 3 in the poll to number 11 in the poll. Now, what that means is they went from number 2 overall, or number 2 in the seeding, to out of the playoff. Because this is an interesting scenario. Rustin and I have said for a while now that it is possible that number 11 would not make it into the playoff. Number 12, the 12th seed is reserved for the highest ranked group of 6, but in this situation, the 12th seed gets a bye, a first round bye, other than the number 12 overall in Miami. Miami in this scenario would jump from number 12.
That's last week's bracket. SMU's number 4 in this week's bracket.
No, that's today's. I made this afternoon. SMU's number 14. So they here's how it would lay out right now. Oregon obviously be number 1 seed overall. Let's see. Texas will be a 2 seed as a SEC champion.
The one I saw on 3 has been putting out their own version.
Yeah.
And they've got SMU beating Miami in the ACC championship, and they've got SMU in that 4 spot.
Yeah, this isn't bracketology at all. This is just straight up AP poll. Here's how that would lay out if this is what happened.
Yeah.
So last week, Georgia was the highest ranked SEC team, and they would have been number 2 in the playoff. But here's the deal. Now, the number 12 seed or number 12 team in the poll would jump up to number 4. So that would push Georgia back to number 12. But the 12th seed is reserved for the highest ranked group of 6, which would be Boise State. So Georgia in 1 week went from number 2 ranked team in the playoff to out of the playoff. That's how volatile this is that we're talking about. That's how volatile this is.
Well, this is even more. So I was looking at On3's bracketology. They made it look very official. I thought it was the real thing. This is even more to what I was saying earlier. Like, whoever wins between Miami and SMU is in, and whoever loses is out. The ACC is only getting one team.
I agree totally.
Notre Dame, again, I'm not a believer. I think they lose at least one, possibly two more games. Alabama, they've got to play Auburn still. You never know.
Yeah,
Texas,
lose again.
Texas and Texas A&M play at the end of the season at Allen Fieldhouse or Kyle Allen Field. You know, that's a coin toss. Indiana's still got to play Ohio State. One of those two teams is going to be out. There's a lot of movement that could still happen here.
I would love to host Notre Dame in a playoff game, though. That'd be pretty cool. That would be amazing.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what the playoff poll looks like on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But the only reason I wanted to show this tonight was because this just shows how volatile it is. You can go from number 2 to not even in the thing in 1 week. So now I'm going to show my top 12. And I struggled with this because, once again, do you do it on who deserves it or who do you think the actual best teams are? Like, if I'm basing it off who deserves it, I mean, you got to put Oregon at number 1. Ohio State only lost to Oregon by 1 point at Oregon, so they got to be number 2. Indiana's undefeated. They just keep beating people. Sometimes it wasn't pretty, but they still keep winning. And they beat a common opponent with Ohio State way worse than Ohio State did. I put Tennessee at 4 because no one in the SEC has a better resume. They also have the best defense in the country. BYU, undefeated Big 12 in Big 12 right now. Then Texas, and then Boise State. Boise State's only loss is to Oregon at Oregon by 3 points. Incredibly good loss. Penn State's only loss is to Ohio State, and they were 1 yard away from beating them. Then you got 9, 10, and 11. And it's hard to sort this part out. The only reason I put them the way I did was because Alabama beat Georgia. Ole Miss hadn't played Alabama, but they beat Georgia. So I put Ole Miss. I mean, 9 and 10, you could really flip-flop if you wanted to. And then I think SMU has a better resume than Miami does. SMU's only loss was to BYU, the current number-ranked 5 team in this poll. So that's why I have SMU ahead of Miami. If I were putting him in order of who I think is legit the best team, I would have Oregon number 1, Tennessee number 2, Texas number 3, Ohio State number 4, and there's a toss-up from that point forward. Penn State would not be in the top 10. I can guarantee you that. That would be. I might do that next week. Just here's who I think is legit the best teams right now. That would be a fun one to do. That'd be a fun poll. Let's see here. JL said Georgia has the 104th ranked rushing offense this year. That is not typical Georgia, that's for sure.
Yep.
Clint Eastwood, said put us out of our misery, and VFL said we're going to give it our all. Alpha Man 06 said, who will be the second string quarterback next year? That would be George McIntyre. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Jake Merklinger. That's my bad. I was thinking Nico's gone, but he's just a redshirt freshman.
No, their best situation is Nico starting, Merck is the backup, and McIntyre redshirting. That should be the goal.
And then the year after that, Merklinger starter, McIntyre backup, Faison redshirting. So that's that would be ideal. Mississippi also, that reminds me, do you guys happen to see the video of Jay Abernathy making the catch over the wall to rob a home run this afternoon? That young man is going to make a big impact this year.
He's a player.
So is he still batting leadoff? I know he was batting leadoff. All right.
Yep.
Kevin said, Rush on Nourish.
He fixed it on the Xmas. I noticed.
Yeah, noticed. I noticed it looked the same. They also were able to redirect or get a blocker upfield. Yep, sure were. If
the puller on the trap, he's supposed to block the tackle on the opposite side of the line, but because of the way Tennessee was running the alignment, the tackle was actually slanting away from him, and so the puller was able to reach up on the linebacker. Not ideal, and like I say, not something that they do very often. I think they were experimenting, but I can promise you Tim Banks is going to shelf that one and not be running any more of that.
Me no like you like Clint Eastwood's post. Sanders said Tony V was at Lady Ball game. He sure was, sitting courtside. Clint said it sucks to see the potential of what Georgia could be, but they're so extreme, hot and cold. You never know what Georgia team's going to show up. Totally understand, man.
Yep.
Mr. Jones said defense and run game travels. It sure does. You're right. Mr. Jones said the AP poll is irrelevant. I totally understand that. I do. The only reason I showed it was because it shows the volatility of this playoff bracket.
Mm-hmm.
That one team can be literally the second highest seeded team 1 week, and 6 days later they're out of the playoff altogether. Like, it's just unreal. It's unreal. Clint said, if Tennessee beats us, just please leave our beloved Hedges alone. That's all I ask. Let's see. Kevin said, committee loves Bama more than Notre Dame, but they love both of them more than the rest. That may be the most accurate comment we've had maybe in the history of the show. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Elijah said Kirby's going to be on the hot seat after. Oh, come on, man.
No.
No. VFL in Texas said the JP poll, that's the Josh Pate poll, is good, similar to what you were describing. I think next time I'm just going to do, here's what I think the legit best teams are. Forget what they've done. Forget, their resume, because everybody's resume is totally skewed based on strength of schedule. Just here's the best teams. That's what I think I'm going to do next time. Girth Brooks said Jimmy Haslam needs to do more. He's done pretty good amount already. It's hard to ask him to do more. Greg asked keys to winning game this Saturday. Well, that'll be our Thursday show. We'll talk about our preview of all the game on Thursday. Mr. Jones said Coach Banks is playing chess, not checkers. He was just giving Georgia some extra stuff to think about so that we can stuff them on Saturday. Ash McVall said it's hard to think of many teams that are playing better right now than South Carolina and Ole Miss. They are hot. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, absolutely. Green Wave asks, is the Notre Dame athletic director still on the college football playoff committee? I don't know. There's a ton of people on there, though, that are sitting athletic directors, and the chief of the committee is the athletic director at Michigan right now.
So Jeff Swarbrick retired. He was on the committee, and he is no longer on it. Well, where'd it go? There it is. I'll tell you who it is right here. Mike Riley, who used to be Oregon State's football coach. Randall McDaniel, who played at Arizona State. He's the player representative. Gary Pinkel, who was Missouri's head coach for a long time.
Yep.
Mac Rhodes, who is Baylor's athletic director. Hunter Yurachek, which is Arkansas's athletic director. Carla Williams, she's the athletic director at Virginia.
Okay, so hang on. So far, you've mentioned a Big 12 athletic director, an SEC athletic director, an ACC athletic director. Okay.
Yeah. Chris Alt, who's the AD at Nevada.
What is that, Mountain West?
Yeah. This is probably the most interesting one. Chet Gladchuk, who's the AD at Navy. So I guess he's representing the independents.
Yeah.
Jim Grobe. No, this is a little weird. Jim Grobe, who used to be the head coach at Virginia, is on the committee. How Virginia has their current athletic director and their former football coach on the committee is a little weird.
Yeah.
Ward Manuel, who's the AD at Michigan, is the chair. Dave Saylor, who's the AD at Miami of Ohio. Former Nebraska player Will Shields.
Is that Ohio Valley Conference?
Yeah. Former Nebraska player Will Shields, and then former college football reporter Kelly Whiteside.
Okay, so you had a Big 12 AD, a Big 10 AD, an SEC, and so you had one AD from all Power 4 conferences.
Yep.
You had an AD from 2 Group of 6 conferences and an independent AD.
Yep. And then a bunch of volunteers that are former players or former reporters.
Gary said if this game was at Neyland, we'd win with our 12th man. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's hard to argue with Neyland right now. VFL in Texas said Josh Pate, he just did the what he felt like was the 12 best teams. Forget resume, forget earning it, just 12 best teams. Rhonda said, I've said numerous times that the Georgia game will be the game for everything to click. I'm sticking to it. No battered ball syndrome. That's what I'm talking about, Rhonda. I love that. Oh, man, I love that attitude. That is fantastic. I like that. Matt said, Georgia fans want Bobo gone, not their beloved Kirby. He is correct. That is accurate. Darth, welcome, Darth. How's it feel being number 1 in the country, Darth? He said, the whole SEC is disrespecting Tennessee. I'm getting pissed off for you guys. Yeah, I don't understand why Texas. Well, I do understand. It's style points. That's all it is. But I hope Tennessee wins out, makes the SEC championship game. Darth said, Bama and Georgia think they're automatically still going to the championship. Darth said, go Vols. That's what I'm talking about, buddy. Mr. Jones asked if Connor Stallions was on the committee. Let's see. Ash McVall said that the Miami of Ohio is in the MAC conference. The MACtion, got some MACtion going on. That's what I'm talking about. Didn't have that on my bingo card for tonight. Mr. Jones said Mike Matthews is from Georgia. He breaks out this game. Hope so. That'd be awesome. That would be fantastic. Elijah said the JP poll is based on neutral field favorability made by a computer. I think that's a great way of doing it. Like and that's what I was honestly thinking about when I was doing mine. I was like, if these two teams played each other, who would win? You know? Absolutely. Matt said Utah's athletic director got fined $40,000 for calling out the refs after the game.
And he was 100% right to do it. He didn't just call out the refs, he called out the entire conference.
He felt like they were rigging it so that he...
Yep.
JL said, we're used to the disrespect. Got to make them respect us. It's always been like that. Rhonda said, I'm available if they need someone on that committee. Yeah, me too. I'd serve on that committee. That would be fun. Dar said, honestly, I don't like being number 1. Too easy to fall into complacency. Lanning doesn't seem to be drinking the Kool-Aid, though. Well, so I think that's a great point, but I think that Dan Lanning sees how close, really, Oregon, Ohio State, maybe Indiana, kind of Boise State because it's only lost by 3, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss. I think he sees just how close all those teams are to each other. There's not a lot of gap between any of them. Greenwave said the JP poll is very similar to the FPI. Mr. Jones said conferences fine you for speaking facts. Let's see. Ava, welcome. There's a new name. I think that's a new name. Glad to have you with us, Ava. She said, Kirby can be as mad as he wants. He's not going to make his quarterback stop turning the ball over or play better. If you get pressure in his face, he does not handle it well, that's for sure. Ryan said, Kirby's going to tell his players they are underdogs and nobody thinks they can win. Bingo. Ryan just nailed it. Kirby always says that, and it kills me. And after every game they win in the post-game press conference on the field with the reporter, he's like, nobody thought we were going to win. Everybody's talking bad about us. I'm like, really? Because it seems like everybody loves y'all. And he said, even though they're 10-point favorites, they always play well when he pulls the underdog card. Ryan's exactly right. He's exactly right. Ethan, welcome, buddy. He said, Chris Brazzell for 200 yards. Hey, I'll take Chris Brazzell for 20 yards if he'll just catch a ball, man. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Yeah, but I'd love that if Brazzell went for 200 yards. That'd be fantastic. Well, we have all week to stew on this game, and Thursday night we'll certainly be talking about it. Greg said this is not the Georgia of the last few years. He's right. Gary said, how did Texas lose so bad to Georgia? I didn't see that game. Because when their backs are against the wall, Kirby knows how to get them ready to play. And sadly, that's what we're walking into Saturday night. We hope everybody has a great week. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Rustin, you want to say anything else before we sign off here?
Nope. Looking forward to a couple of basketball games this week.
Absolutely. You got both the men's and women's team in action this week. And that means that this Thursday night, we'll have a ton of stuff to talk about because there will be basketball to talk about. There will be a preview of the Georgia game. Game day is going to be there. Chris Fowler is going to be there. Herb Street's going to be there. It's going to be the 7:30 ABC primetime game because there are no other good games really this week. I mean, there's a few, but not many. Oh, speaking of which, I need to show the current standings. Let's see here. I almost forgot that. We got to show the current standings. All right, here we go. So, as of right now, well, look who's at the top all by himself. 1 game lead. Rustin is holding on to a 1 game lead. Only 3 weeks left. I wonder if he can hold on to it for 3 weeks. This week's games, all of them are on Saturday. Every game is on Saturday. So please submit your picks by Friday night. This week we've got Texas at Arkansas, Clemson at Pitt. That's a top 25 matchup. Utah at Colorado, Tulane at Navy. That'll be a good game. LSU at Florida, not a good game. We're just struggling to find some because there's not that many good ones this week. Missouri at South Carolina, Boise State at San Jose State. If there is a game left on Boise State's schedule for someone to get them, it's probably this week with San Jose State. But we'll see what happens. Arizona State at Kansas State, Oregon at Wisconsin, and Tennessee at Georgia. So very obvious why game day went to Tennessee at Georgia, because that's really the only good game this week. Let's see. Some of the other comments coming through there. Elijah said, good night, bros. Good night, buddy. Good to have you with us as always. Darth, glad you joined us, man. He said, have a good night. Go Vols, stomp the dogs. We're going to do our best, bud. We're going to do our best. Ethan said, when are we going to start Matthews? That will be next season. Gary said, thanks for the show, guys. Hey, we appreciate you joining us. VFL in Texas said, Texas gave them too many short fields in that Georgia game. Absolutely.
Yep.
Gary said, go Big Orange. Absolutely. JL said their running back is hurt and Beck is a turnover machine. They won't score 20. I agree. I don't think they'll score 20. We just have to make sure we score 20.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like you said, Night Guys, Go Big Orange, happy birthday, Jemai Mashak. Oh, that's cool. Huh. I did not know it's his birthday. Jemai, if you're watching, happy birthday, buddy. You're welcome on our show anytime. You have a standing invitation there. Kevin said, great show, Valbros and everybody. Appreciate you so much, Kevin. Thank you. Rhonda said, great show, guys. Everyone have a blessed week. You too, Rhonda. She said, wear your orange. Let's go Vols. Absolutely. I'm thinking about wearing a different Tennessee polo to work every day this week. Ash McVall said, Tulu. Appreciate you, buddy. Let's see. Greg said, Evan, don't miss a dose of your Battervall syndrome meds this week. I'm going to try not to. Clint Eastwood said, night fellas, dig the show. May the best team win. Hey, we appreciate you so much for joining us. I always love it when fans of other teams join us. So thank you. We appreciate that. I totally agree. Hopefully it's an injury-free game and everybody is playing their best this Saturday. VFL text said, night, everyone. Good night, buddy. Mr. Jones, I'll see you there. Good night, buddy. Hope everybody has a great evening. Please join us Thursday. Well, it's going to be a huge show. 9:00 Eastern, Facebook, X, YouTube. Still not used to saying X. So hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols. Go check out the Ooltewah Club at theooltewahclub.com. We sure do appreciate them so much. We hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols.